Black Brilliance, shining a memoir of motivational moments found within as defining the purpose of one's humanity. Today I introduce you to Adrienne Edie Adams.
I'm Councilmember Adrienne Adams, and I represent the 28th District in Queens, New York. I'm the first woman ever to represent this district in the New York City Council, and this is Black Brilliance.
Black Brilliance, spoken in the book of Psalm, the 139th chapter. God knit you together in the secret place, saw your being before you took shape, to whom you are today.
You know, it took me a long time to realize what my calling in life was. Several iterations of this girl, woman, being had to take place before I ever realized what was to be that now is. You know, as a little girl, I was very, very intimidated by other people. Actually bullied in elementary school. It took me a while to realize what my self-esteem was. And I didn't really come into myself until I became a young woman and I started to realize my worth. What a journey it was to finally realize that I was worth something, even though I came from a beautiful family, 2 loving parents and a little sister. The journey was still to be. It had to happen because the caterpillar had to become a butterfly eventually.
It's a strange gift, the birthright of oneself. Accepting it turns out to be more demanding than attempting to become someone else.
You know, I went to 2 colleges, and I said I didn't come into myself until I was a young woman. I went to York College for a year and a half, and I started out as a music theory major in York. I love to sing, I love music, I played a little piano back then. And my journey changed when I changed majors from music to psychology. I had an amazing psychology professor. Her name was Dr. Jackie Ray. And she exuded everything that I wanted to be. She walked in the room and she commanded attention. She wasn't intimidating. She was just a Black woman that knew her stuff. And I said, wow, I wonder what that feels like. So I started realizing that it wasn't that far of a stretch for me to become more confident, more poised, more of a Dr. Jackie Ray. Then I went to Spelman College after a year and a half. My goodness, my sociology professor. Oh, she had a line. And you know, Morehouse and Spelman, we shared campuses. We're across the street, brother and sister schools. This particular sociology professor would have a line 3:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays to get into her class, to get into her sociology class because she was so brilliant, she was amazing, but she was down, you know. She was one of us. She was a professor, but she spoke to us like she lived where we lived. And she told us that as Black people, that we could be so much more than what we thought we were. Get this, and I'll never forget this. She says, you know, it took us a long time from slavery not to be called boy, not to be called girl. Now, Black people, we grow and we're grown. She said, and what do we hear in our neighborhood? Hey boy, I'm your girl, we boys. So even in our own psychology, in our own heads, we still have not moved from being boys and girls to being men and women. Now get this, the expressions that I grew up with, hearing my family use. Oh, that baby over there is gonna do such and such. Speaking about a grown man or a woman, oh, that baby over there is gonna do such and such. So my sociology professor would put it all together and say, so we Black folks are like, hey, let's all of us, baby, just go ahead and hang out at the crib. We have to evolve. So the evolution happens, and it's still happening for all of us.
An African tale reveals the ultimate importance of oneself. Baba Olubisi, when he was an old man, said, "In the coming world, they will not ask me, why were you not Moses, Martin, Muhammad, or Malcolm? They will ask me, why were you not Olubisi?"
When I gave up life in corporate America some years ago, I gave it up because I wanted to dig deeper into my community and the prospects of the things that I could bring to my community. I couldn't do that in my other life, in my other world, as a corporate trainer. I trained executives. I've trained a lot of folks in a lot of different Fortune 500 companies, but I knew that there was something deeper in me that had to come out. And when I gave that up, thank God I was able to give that up. I have, a wonderful husband who said, go after your dreams, figure it out, whatever it is. I jumped in both feet into my community, grassroots living, as they say. Jumped into my community board and then jumped into my duties as the education chairperson of my community board. Community boards, for those that don't know, don't pay a dime. We're volunteers. I still say we because it's a lot of who I still am on the inside. Volunteer work, strong work, but I tell you, it gives you a backbone for your community, for that thing that is such a part of you. When you don't think that you have any power, you just look into some grassroots organization. They will give you the power that you never thought you had. But the one thing that resonated in the back of my mind, my parents would take a look at the work that I'd be doing in the community, and my mom, those of us that come from Southern parents, my mom would say, that's just great, but you're getting older. When are you gonna get a real job? And it makes me laugh to this day. When are you gonna get a real job? And I'd say, Mom, I have a real job. I'm doing all this work in the community. My voice is out there in the community. I'm a voice for the community. I'm not getting a paycheck, but I'm doing all this work for the community. And even in that time and space, I knew that there was more. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know that I would yet become an elected official, but I knew one thing, that in my dark days and not having a paycheck, whatever that was back then, I knew that my faith was still standing in me, and I knew what God told me and promised me, that my ladder would be greater. I hold on to that this day, because even sitting in the seat that I'm in the New York City Council, I still believe that my ladder will be greater.
He chose your brilliance to illuminate his nature in a supernatural way.
Faith is everything to me. I started out in Catholic school, and believe it or not, when I graduated from Catholic school in the 8th grade, I got a medal for religion. Who gets a medal for religion in the 8th grade in Catholic school? But I got a medal for religion because I would tend to stick around the church and wanted to learn a little bit more about the Bible, even in Catholic school. But I knew there was more. I knew there was more inside of me that couldn't quite be expressed in that faith, and that's not to put that faith down. Those are my beginnings. But as I matured and became a teenager, I tended to seek out more of an expression. I come from a Baptist family, Southern roots. I have countless ministers, preachers, evangelists, singers, and we're a singing family as well, particularly in South Carolina. Shout out to the Prelos in South Carolina and the Edie's. We come from a singing, praying family. So that expression just grew within me, and it grew to a point when I was about 17 years old, where I found the Pentecostal church. Yes, I did. Humble Heart Christian Church in St. Albans on 120th Avenue. Pastor Frederick Wilson Sr. was our pastor, and we all called him Dad. And he really picked up fraternal mentorship for me as a teenager, and that teaching that went even deeper, because he didn't just read the Bible, he was the Bible. He was personified. He loved God. He loved teaching Jesus. He loved that. I loved hearing about it. I loved being able to freely express it. You talk about a shouting teenager, what? Huh. Make me start, don't make me start. Shout up in here, God is good, y'all. He's good all the time. I am Councilwoman Adrienne Adams, representing District 28 in Queens, the Great 28, and I'm the first woman ever to represent District 28 in the New York City Council, and this is BLAQ Brilliance.